Alexa, play Send Me Radio.
Welcome to Send Me Radio.
The red heifer and the branch, biblical, historical, and prophetic significance. The red heifer is a rare and sacred animal described in Numbers 19, essential for purification in ancient Israel. It has profound theological and prophetic significance, especially in relation to the rebuilding of the Third Temple, the coming of the Messiah, and, in Christian eschatology, the return of Jesus Christ. Closely tied to the red heifer is the prophetic title branch, which refers to a future ruler from the lineage of David who will establish God's kingdom and bring spiritual restoration. The biblical origins of the red heifer. The command regarding the red heifer appears in Numbers 19 verses 2 to 10, where God instructs Moses and Aaron on its sacrificial use. This is the statute of the law which the Lord has commanded, saying, "Tell the sons of Israel to bring you a red heifer without defect, in which there is no blemish and on which a yoke has never been placed." The red heifer was taken outside the camp, slaughtered, and completely burned. Its ashes were then mixed with water and used for purification. This was necessary for anyone who had come into contact with a dead body and was therefore ritually unclean. The one who touches the dead body of any person shall be unclean for 7 days. That one shall purify himself with the water on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, and then he will be clean. Without this purification, a person remained ceremonially unclean and could not enter the temple or participate in worship. Unlike other sacrifices performed at the temple altar, the red heifer was burned outside the camp, symbolizing separation and atonement. The red heifer in ancient Israel. In ancient Israel, temple worship required ritual purity, and the ashes of the red heifer were crucial for maintaining this state. The Mishnah states that only 9 red heifers were ever sacrificed in history, with the 10th one expected in the Messianic age. King Solomon, who built the first temple in 957 BCE, would have overseen these purification rituals. After the Babylonian destruction of the first temple in 586 BCE, the second temple was rebuilt in 516 BCE under Ezra and Nehemiah. The use of red heifer ashes continued until the Romans destroyed the second temple in 70 CE, marking the end of sacrificial worship in Judaism. The branch, the coming Messianic king. The term branch appears in several Messianic prophecies, referring to a future ruler who will bring justice, restoration, and divine kingship. This title is often interpreted as referring to the Messiah, whom Christians identify as Jesus Christ, while in Jewish tradition, it is associated with the future Davidic king. Biblical references to the branch. Zechariah 6 verses 12 to 13 then say to him, "Thus says the Lord of hosts, Behold, a man whose name is Branch, for he will branch out from where he is, and he will build the temple of the Lord." Yes, it is he who will build the temple of the Lord, and he who will bear the honor and sit and rule on his throne. Thus, he will be a priest on his throne, and the council of peace will be between the two offices. Single quote. This prophecy describes a ruler and priest who will build the Lord's temple and reign in peace. Many scholars see this as referring to the Messianic king, one who will combine both priestly and kingly roles. Jeremiah 23 verses 5 to 6, "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will raise up for David a righteous branch, and he will reign as king and act wisely, and do justice and righteousness in the land. In his days Judah will be saved, and Israel will live securely." Here, the branch is linked to David's royal line, suggesting that the Messiah will come from David's descendants. Isaiah 11 verses 1 to 2, "Then a shoot will spring from the stem of Jesse, and a branch from his roots will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him." Jesse was the father of King David, meaning that this passage points to a future descendant of David who will rule with wisdom and divine power. The red heifer and end times prophecy. The rebuilding of the Third Temple. For Jews, the red heifer is essential for purifying the priesthood and the temple before worship can resume. Ezekiel 40 to 48 describes a future temple, which many believe will be the third temple built before the Messianic age. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem is actively searching for a perfect red heifer to reinstate ancient purification rituals. Christian eschatology, the red heifer and the Antichrist. In Christian end times prophecy, the red heifer is associated with the tribulation, the Antichrist, and the second coming of Jesus Christ. Daniel 9 verse 27, "And he will make a firm covenant with the many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he will put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering." This implies that temple sacrifices will resume, which would require a red heifer sacrifice to purify the temple beforehand. 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 4, "He opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God." This passage suggests that the third temple will exist in the end times, making the red heifer ritual a crucial part of prophecy. The red heifer and the sacrifice of Christ. The New Testament compares the red heifer's purification ritual with Jesus Christ's ultimate sacrifice. Hebrews 9 verses 13 to 14. For if the blood of goats and bulls, and the ashes of a heifer sprinkling those who have been defiled, sanctified for the cleansing of the flesh, how much more will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without blemish to God, cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living God? This passage contrasts the temporary cleansing of the red heifer with the eternal redemption through Christ, emphasizing that Jesus' sacrifice fulfills the purification that the red heifer symbolized. Modern efforts and global impact. In 2022, 5 red heifer candidates were transported from Texas to Israel, stirring speculation about whether they will be used to fulfill purification requirements for a future temple. The Temple Mount in Jerusalem, currently home to the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, is one of the most contested religious sites in the world, meaning that rebuilding the temple could trigger geopolitical conflict. Conclusion: the red heifer and the branch are deeply embedded in biblical law, Jewish tradition, and Christian eschatology. The branch represents the coming Messianic King, believed by Christians to be Jesus Christ, who will reign in righteousness. The red heifer is a symbol of purification, essential for restoring temple worship and possibly fulfilling end-times prophecy. Both Jewish and Christian eschatology see these events as key signs of the last days. Whether viewed through the
Thank you
lens
for
of Jewish
listening to
messianic
Send Me Radio.
expectations or Christian
Join us
end-times
every morning
prophecy,
at 6
the
a.m.
branch and the
Eastern
red
for
heifer
Mountain
remain
Top
two of the
Prayer.
most mysterious and
Call in on
significant symbols in biblical prophecy today.
516387860.